All right, let's open the file. Picture this. The year is 1984. Japan is an economic powerhouse, a global beacon of progress and prosperity. The streets of Osaka are just buzzing with this incredible confidence. But deep in the shadows, a case is about to break that will terrorize the entire nation. A case that, to this day, remains wide open. This is the Glico Morinaga case.
Right below that shiny surface of prosperity, a threat started popping up in the most ordinary of places, the supermarket aisle. Shoppers started finding these little, crudely typed stickers on boxes of candy. Now you have to understand, this wasn't just a crime. This was an assault on the very idea of public trust, turning a simple trip to the store into a terrifying game of Russian roulette. For 18 long months, this phantom group, calling themselves the Monster with 21 Faces, waged a campaign of pure psychological warfare. It started with a shocking kidnapping, then it escalated into a nationwide panic over poisoned food, and then they just vanished. So, to really get what they were doing, we have to go right back to the start of the evidence chain. And the first link wasn't poison, it was a person, a very high-profile executive, snatched right from his own home.
On March 18, 1984, two armed, masked men break in and abduct Katsuhisa Izaki, the CEO of the huge food company Glico, right out of his bathtub. Can you imagine? They demand a massive ransom, but here's the twist. 3 days later, Izaki escapes all on his own. Now, you'd think that would be the end of it, right? The plan failed. But no, this was a turning point. It forced them to get creative.
And you can see it right here, in the evidence, a major pivot. They gave up on these high-risk kidnappings of a single person. Their new target was way bigger, something you can't even touch, but it was so much more valuable: public trust. They were about to weaponize fear itself, right in the heart of a country that prided itself on safety and quality.
And that brings us to their MO, their method of operation. And honestly, it was terrifyingly unique. This wasn't just about money. The monster mixed real chemical threats with some seriously brilliant media manipulation, basically turning the entire country's food supply chain into their personal playground of terror.
Just look at how methodical this was. They'd put sodium cyanide in chocolates, put them back on store shelves, and this is the key, the real psychological genius of it all, they'd send letters to the media telling everyone what they did. Their goal wasn't to kill silently, it was to create a very loud, very public panic.
This gives us a direct window into their mindset. It shows that they saw this whole investigation as a game. They weren't just committing crimes, they were publicly humiliating the police, painting themselves as these untouchable, superior masterminds.
From a criminal psychology perspective, their tactics were frankly masterful. By mocking the cops and using newspapers as their personal megaphone, they completely eroded public trust in the institutions meant to protect them. They made themselves seem like they were everywhere, all at once, which turned something as simple as a trip to the grocery store into a genuine act of bravery for millions of families.
Now, in this entire 18-month-long investigation, with all the letters, all the poison candy, the police had almost nothing. Just one significant lead. A fleeting glimpse of a man who would become a legend, a ghost in Japanese crime history.
You see, the original kidnappers were just shadows and masks. But the Fox-eyed man was different. He was seen unmasked by an investigator. And the description was so specific. A man with a totally calm demeanor and these very distinctive, slanted eyes, like a fox. He instantly became the face of this faceless monster. The moment he was spotted was incredibly tense. It's during a money drop where cash was supposed to be thrown off a moving train. An investigator on board notices this guy watching him way too intently. He was sure this was his target. But before they could do anything, the guy just melted into the chaos of Kyoto Station. He was seen, and then he was gone, a total ghost.
And after that sighting of the fox-eyed man, the trail just went ice cold. The monster kept up their taunts for a little while longer, but the huge investigation was going nowhere. The end of this whole crime spree was just as bizarre and sudden as the beginning.
To really understand what happened next, you've got to grasp this concept of shame culture in Japan, especially back then. For someone in a position of public trust, like a police chief, failing to solve a case this big wasn't just a professional setback, it was a deep, profound personal dishonor.
The pressure was just immense, and it led to an absolute tragedy. The police superintendent in charge of the investigation took his own life. The monster with 21 faces wasn't just terrorizing the public anymore. They were destroying the lives of the very people trying to stop them.
And then, in August of 1985, after all the chaos, the panic, and the tragedy, this was their final message. They didn't declare victory. They didn't make one last demand. They just said they were bored. And with that incredibly casual, chilling sign-off, they disappeared from the face of the earth.
From that moment on, time became the monster's greatest accomplice. As the years ticked by with zero arrest, the legal clocks just ran out. In 1995, the statute of limitations for the kidnapping expired. Then, by 2000, it was over for all the other charges, too. The case was officially, legally dead.
And this is the final, brutal fact of the entire investigation. After 18 months of terror, after one of the biggest manhunts in Japanese history, the total number of people ever arrested for any of it was 0. The monster with 21 faces became the monster with 0 suspects.
So, we close the file here. No answers, no resolution. You know, they say every crime leaves a trace, some piece of evidence that points to the truth. But in this case, the only thing they left behind was a shadow, a giant question mark that still hangs over Japan today.
And that leaves us with the one question that still haunts everyone who looks at this case. Who was the monster with 21 faces? Was it a group of ruthless corporate rivals using terror as a business strategy? Or was it all the work of a single brilliant mastermind, a real-life phantom who did it all just for the gain?